Hey everyone, it's Dr. Jennifer Benjamin here, and are we in for a special treat? I have another nominee for the inaugural Marion Lindblad-Goldberg Award. We are here today with Nikole Davis. Hey Nikole, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm so glad we could get together. Wanted to be able to take some time just to talk with you a little bit about this wonderful opportunity because it's well deserved. I have the privilege of getting to meet with Nikole in the training cohort. So I've heard her speak about families and talk about her staff and the work she's doing and her commitment. So I do know firsthand, how mission driven Nikole is. So, Nikole, what does it mean to you to be recognized by your peers as having the same passion and commitment as Dr. Marion Lindblad-Goldberg for systemic family therapy?
I mean, honestly, it's an honor. So thinking about like when I started here as at MCC, we're called family-based counselors. So I started out as the lowest level of clinician. I came straight out of direct care.
Oh yeah.
So I was working, direct care in a hospital. I had no idea what it meant to look at things from a more systemic perspective. All I knew is that I wanted to make a difference. And I wanted to work with families on preventing out-of-home placements and working on the connections with one another. And I think that coming into family-based, I really got to learn a lot about myself, and using that to become, the clinician I would have wanted when I was a kid. I think that that's a huge part of it is making sure that we're paying attention to what the family's needs are and meeting where they're at. And to think that somebody believes that I hold those values very high to me, I think is really, really special.
Yeah. Well, and it connects for me. Marion's legacy is really about that every family that's dislocated has the potential to heal. And I do strongly experience you taking that stance when I hear you, talking about cases or talking through the lens of assessment. So it makes sense to me that somebody saw you carrying that torch as well.
Yeah, it's been a long journey, but I truly believe like ESFT has been something that's really catapulted my thinking, and really transformed how I look at family systems, how I look at individuals. It's funny because I find myself using the lens when I'm in my personal life, and
Yes.
my husband will be like, "You're not at work," and I'm like, well, I mean,
But isn't it just a way of life?
it just completely like shifts
Yeah.
how you think. So,
Oh, yeah. So speaking to that, like what sustains you and inspires you in systemic work? Because it isn't how people think, and it isn't, at large how our culture functions either. So how do you sustain yourself? Like,
um, I think as a clinician, I told myself for a long time it was the success of watching the families connect. But I think now as a supervisor, and I think about like my work as a clinician, I didn't value the success as much as I thought I did. It was more the process of helping the families get through those really difficult moments. And being able to challenge them in a way to address what's going on. And celebrating those little wins. I think that those were huge for me as a clinician and still are as a supervisor, is celebrating those small wins. And I think that those really keep me going a lot of days.
Yeah, it's amazing how big those small moments can feel when you understand the process that's changing.
Yeah. And now as a supervisor, getting to help clinicians like measure their own success,
Mm,
I think is really important to me. And it's something we talk a lot about in our group supervision of like
mhm,
managing our own expectations for these families. And then how do we make sure that we're celebrating those small wins along the way? Because our end goal may not look like their end goal. And that's okay.
mhm.
So I
Yeah,
think that that's been something that's been very important to me, especially now as well as a supervisor.
yeah. So how do you think the adversity and challenges you faced have contributed to your growth and development? Because, I mean, uh, working as a systemic family therapist and now a systemic supervisor, you
Yeah.
definitely face your share of adversity and challenges.
Yeah. I think the biggest impact of that for me is my own personal growth and how much I have learned about myself through this job. Um, and working as a clinician. I used to joke when I first started here that I was receiving free therapy because that's what it felt like a lot, like in supervisions. And I think that if I wouldn't have had that, I don't think I would have continued the way that I did and I kept going the way that I did.
Mhm,
I also think that through adversity is how we learn and how we grow. Um,
mm,
so I'm a firm believer of like you have to push yourself to make changes. I mean, we're asking these families to make some of the hardest changes that they possibly can make, and they're years of patterns that have just been going on. And if I'm not willing to do it myself, then I can't ask them to do it.
yeah. So you've really found working your growth and development in the trenches, it has such long-term benefit that when you see it, it's not that you're like, yes, emotional suffering. You're like, okay, and I'm gonna grow from it.
Yeah, and as a clinician and even now as a supervisor, I was willing to use myself in those positions with the families of like, listen, this is what I experienced. This is what I learned. Take it or leave it. But it was a really important lesson for me to learn. Um, and it really helped me along the way. And it was really hard, but it was really helpful to have somebody there to support me through it.
Mm,
Um, which I
yeah.
got very, very lucky here to have really great supervisors before me to push me in those ways.
And we are so lucky we have Dan Lara with us. Hi, Dan.
Hi.
So Dan is a supervisee of Nikole. And so, Dan, we just wanted to take some time to hear from you about some questions about Nikole, if that's all right.
Yeah, please. Absolutely.
So, Dan, can you talk about why you're not surprised that Nikole has been nominated for this award that really honors the legacy of Marion Lindblad-Goldberg?
Yeah, absolutely. So Nikole, I think she's my fourth supervisor in about 2 years. I would say out of all my supervisors, and this is no hate to any of the other ones because I really enjoyed all of them. Nicole's very genuine. She's very authentic. She took over our office at a really rough time when our office was not doing so well. She took
Mhm.
on that challenge. She did it very successfully, and she did it without changing her personality at all. She did it. She was very genuine, easy to talk to. Um, she's just honest, and she really looks out for the clinicians in the office, and I really do appreciate that. Yeah,
Wow. Yeah, she's I always appreciate how she always shows up the same way, no matter what's going on for her, like even
yeah,
in trainings. Yeah.
yeah.
So so in terms of Nikole, how has her own growth and development impacted or contributed to your growth and development as a professional?
Yeah. I think her just coming as her authentic self helps me feel comfortable being authentic myself when I come to her. So it helps me be a little bit comfortable being vulnerable when I speak with her during supervisions.
Mm.
You know, if I'm struggling in a case, I'm not hesitant at all to ask her for help. She's more than willing to help. And she just, I don't know, there's just no judgments. I feel very, very comfortable when we're speaking. And she's a great listener. And she doesn't hesitate to give me, sometimes I think I know it all, right? And I know I don't, but she's quick to correct me on that in a very respectful way, and an empowering way. So she's great. She really
Aw.
is.
So what have you seen Nikole do in the face of adversity, the pressure's up or a family's in crisis? Like what have you seen her do um, that, has been helpful to yourself or others and the family?
Yeah, just the resiliency. She really does stay focused on the job at hand. When emotions are high, she's very calm. If something is happening in the office, she'll be very calm to put us at ease, her clinicians. And she does the same thing with the families. She really doesn't make it seem like things, you would never know things were going on in her life. She really makes time for these families, and just kind of works with them and sees it through to the end. And I really respect that. I think she's a very great person. As cliche as that may sound, like she's just a really great human being. She really does care for people. And I know most of us do in this profession, or else we wouldn't be doing it. But I think there's levels to it. And I think she genuinely cares for people. And I know she's going to be very successful in whatever she does. If she stays in family based, no matter where she goes, just that love of people, if she's working with people, she's going to be really great at it. And I think her families that she works with will see that as well. Congratulations, Nikole. You're the best.
Kayla, I'm so glad that you could join me so we could speak to Nikole Davis's nomination for the inaugural Marion Lindblad-Goldberg Award. And thank you for making time. So, Kayla, what do you appreciate about Nikole as a supervisor?
Well, for starters, Nikole is probably one of the greatest people I've ever met. Uh, Not just the supervisor, but as a person, her personality is phenomenal. She is
Oh,
real and she's funny. She's super kind and compassionate. She cares about her staff.
yeah,
And so another thing I appreciate, sorry, is that she was also a clinician. So
yeah.
she also comes from that. She understands. She relates to us,
Mhm.
and so with all of that combined, it just makes an amazing supervisor. She is nothing short of a blessing, honestly. And I am so honored and privileged to be able to work with someone like her as my superior. So,
Yeah, I know, right? She shows up 100% for her staff, doesn't she?
100%, yeah.
What have you seen Nikole do when adversity strikes, the emotions are high, families in crisis? Like, what do you appreciate about how she shows up in those moments to promote your growth and development? What is that like?
Yeah, one thing about Nikole is she is incredibly reliable and responded. Uh, there are several times where emotions are high with me or with one of my families, and the way that she comes through with such compassion and concern, not just for the families but also for the staff, it is
Mhm.
absolutely incredible to see. Like she's such a phenomenal supervisor. Like there almost no words can express how great she is. And yeah, she handles things well and she's so real. So that
Yeah.
helps a ton.
So how do you think that you've grown since she's, been your supervisor?
I've had the pleasure of learning from someone who has a ton of experience and doing so with someone who is graceful towards me. Really, she shows me a ton of grace even when I make mistakes. Um, and someone who is completely, it's almost like strength-based language is her go-to.
Yeah.
Like that is her forte.
Oh,
And so she uses that even with us. And so that is something I appreciate so dearly. Um, she is she is kind and she is supportive. And that being in an environment like that, it is bound to foster growth. So Congratulations, Nikole. Woo!
Well, I'm just so excited for you. I'm so glad we got to have this time together. And, for those of you who haven't already, make sure you subscribe to that blog so you can get access exclusively to faculty interviews with family therapy experts and freebies. So till next time, I'll see you on the socials, everyone. Bye.
Bye.